Hi, everybody. I'm Andrea. I'm an alcoholic. That's a long chapter. I've been through this process with 2 big book step study sponsors and a patient-loving higher power, whom I call God, and practicing the latter steps, slacking a little bit, I'll be honest, and I pay a price, and so do the people around me. This is how it works. Second half of step 1, that our lives have become unmanageable. We admitted I was powerless over alcohol. When I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, I came through, actually my first introduction to Alcoholics Anonymous, I was 18, and I had been kicked out of, flunked out of college, North Adams State College, because I got an A in partying and F and everything else. So I was, I came home. Can you use the microphone, please? Oh, sure. Is it? Oh, it's working. All right. So, how's that? Okay. So I came home. My father told me that a cousin of mine was going to Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't know if I've ever heard of I don't remember if I heard of Alcoholics Anonymous before that, but my father's also an alcoholic, and at some point he was introduced, but he wasn't really a meeting goer. But anyway, so at 18, I went into Alcoholics Anonymous. I stopped drinking, like it said here in the book, for about a year, and I didn't get it. I didn't really have a problem putting down alcohol back then. At that age, I joined a group. I made coffee. We used to play softball teams back then. They used to have big AA dances, and I did all that. And then I went back to college, and Mass Bay Community College, just up the street from my house. So I started going there, and life started going on. And one day I found myself picking up a drink, but it wasn't like, oh my God, I picked up. It just evolved into that. And so that was, probably 19-ish now. And I went about my life, had a few incidences. I mean, I had the warning signs back when I was in high school, but I didn't put them together. And there's so much information out here today for these young kids growing up that is just powerful. And awareness is half the solution. I had a college professor that used to always say that. And that's like one of the things that stuck in my head, unfortunately, back then. But it's so great that, we have these fellowships and these programs out there. And so anyways, I started to drink again, and it didn't really raise any eyebrows, especially mine. But I found a drinking partner. I found my boyfriend, and of then. And we were like, I always describe us as Bonnie and Clyde without the guns and the bank robbing. We were just, out of control. So anyways, that's where my drinking really started to escalate, and then that's where I really started to lose who I was. And, I found myself in situation after situation, not happy. I thought I was happy. I mean, I just went about and da-da-da-da-da, but I didn't know. I go into schools and I speak to children, high schools, and, I look at these kids and try to remember when I was their age. I didn't know anything. I was just going along life. I didn't look to my future, and it just took it day by day. And I just, again, I'll say there's so much out there for these kids today. It can probably be very overwhelming, but what a world we have today. It's just, there's so much out there today, good and bad, but a lot of good. So anyways, I'm coming to how, my life started to get unmanageable. And, I had, like I said, I had some signposts, but this incident really dragged me down. And this is why I go into schools today, because I feel that you got to put it out there, because I used to walk around, we didn't hear what we hear today about alcohol and drugs, but I never thought drinking, smoking, using drugs could lead to anything. I never thought that it would take what it took. And so we go into these schools and I tell them, some of the stories that had happened to me when we picked up alcohol. And when did I see that there was a problem? And when I was 23, I was still drinking, running around looking for that boyfriend to fill the hole that I didn't realize I had. And I couldn't find him one night, and I was drinking and partying with some of my friends, and I started getting really pissed off. So I finally found him, and I said, I'm going to get him. And I'm coming over. So I get in my car, and now I'm all pissed off and hyped up on whatever. And I knew the area I was in, and I got up to a traffic light, and I said to myself before I even saw it, if that light's red, I'm going through it, and I did. And next thing you know, I was being put into a stretcher. On a stretcher, there were lights everywhere. And the next thing I can recall is I was in the hospital trying to get my parents on the phone to come get me, or to come up. And there were cops walking around, coming in the room, and, I didn't know what was going on. There was blood everywhere, and, I get really graphic when I talk to the kids, so if I get so the next thing you know, he's reading me my rights, the police officer. My parents finally came up, and I just spoke on this the other day, but I just get so emotional talking about it, because it's my story. The police officer started reading my rights. I asked why, and he said, because the person in the other car died. And I didn't even know I hit another car. So this is why I go into the high schools, because I feel I take responsibility for what I've done, and I beat myself still up about it. I'm not gonna lie, but this process has helped me come out and to grow again, because I stopped growing there. I stopped growing, I started going down, and I hated myself. I didn't even know who I was, really. I didn't have any of those tools at that age. And, we go into the schools because I never thought that would happen to me. I never thought it, never crossed my mind. And I go in and we tell these children, this is what happened to me. I'm going along my merry way. Yep, I was a cheerleader, and I have a good family that's together, and my father finally had quit drinking, and life was going on with our family, and just never crossed my mind that because of me not keeping tabs on what I'm doing, or taking responsibility for what I'm doing, or think about what I'm doing, that this could happen to me. And it did, and I had no tools. I was fortunate to have my family, because they're the ones that kept pushing me to go on, because I didn't want to go on. I didn't want to take my life. That never crossed my mind either, but I know I was slowly killing myself with alcohol and drugs. And I continued to drink because I didn't want to feel the pain, and I didn't know that I was, after a while, needing this alcohol and drugs to just numb it out. I hated myself so much. I thought I should rot in jail. I was crucifying myself, and I didn't have God in my life. My parents, brought us to church and everything, but unfortunately there was an incident with the church that I just never grew in the knowledge of God. And so my life just spiraled down. It took me quite a few years. It took about a year for that court case to go to trial. The girl's name was Kathy Roach. I never saw Kathy. I never saw her in the hospital. The only time I saw her was when the DA wove her autopsy picture in front of my face while we were in trial. I didn't know her family, but I did see her family sitting over in the courtroom. I had my whole family sitting in the courtroom, and I felt really bad for myself. And I look at it and I get ashamed, but that's what happened because I didn't have anything. And I did lose my license for 10 years, and I was lucky to get it back after 10 years. I did go to, after that court trial that took 3 days, I ended up being sentenced to MCI Framingham and then transferred over to Longwood Treatment Center, which I don't think is open anymore. Thank God for that treatment center because, again, I was introduced to Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, this disease just takes and takes and takes and slams, and it'll make mincemeat out of us before it takes us, most of us, and I know it did that to me. So my life was pretty unmanageable. I got out of, I was shackled to the waist and the ankles, and I was just trying to have fun. I was a good girl, and this is where it brought me. And, you know, over the years, I came home, and I started going to a psychiatrist, and I just I couldn't do it. I couldn't take responsibility. So my life went down and down and down. I lost jobs. I could barely hold a job at a little fruit stand I was working at. And I just thank God for my parents, thank God for my brothers, thank God for some of my friends that stayed with me because I lost friends, and no one wanted to really be around me anymore. But when I went into that hospital on that night, it was in January of 1988, I thought my life was gone. In 1993, I went back to that same hospital for some help in a treatment center, and my life began again. How ironic. And I thought it was really cool when I heard these women from Cape Cod, because from that treatment place, I started my recovery in Cape Cod, Orleans. And, you know, that was 1993. It took me that many years. Thank God I didn't die. I know God had a plan for me. But I know more so as I stay sober and work this fellowship and stay in this Big Book step study. So my life was unmanageable. Little by slow, Alcoholics Anonymous repaired my life. I learned, met different people. I learned some of the tools, pick up that telephone. I don't know if you remember that one. Pick up that telephone and make a call, and I'd have to use that. And that was like the heaviest telephone. But then I started to get a network. And it's not until 10 years later of sobriety that I walked into this program. I was living in the Waltham, Newton, Watertown area, and that's a lot. Yeah, I moved from Cape Cod back up to the Waltham area, and began my trudging the road of happy destiny. But the happiness really didn't come until I started working with these steps. I had heard about the Big Book. I had picked it up in page, what is it, 444, what's that? I don't even remember the page number anymore. It was only like one page, and I don't even remember the page number. But I picked it up when I came in here 10 years ago, and I met my future husband. I didn't meet him in here. I met him at an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, and he introduced me to these meetings, and it was this meeting. It wasn't at this church. It was I think 2 churches ago. He said, "My father's speaking. Would you want to go to a meeting? My father's speaking." I said, "Oh, yeah, let's go." I said, and he didn't say it was a big book step study meeting. And so that's how I met my husband, and then we married, and I heard this woman speak there. And I was like, wow, this lady knows. I don't know, she was saying things that just I respected, and I felt it in my soul, the feeling she was talking about. And I didn't ask her to be my sponsor right away. I asked someone else, but then she ended up being my sponsor. But when we speak in these meetings, when some people hear us, we're lighting their soul if they're new to this, and opening up a new channel in their life. And not until, like I said, I came into this fellowship and started doing, I did the first step, second, and the third, and then started taking a look at my resentments, which I didn't even know what a resentment was until I got in here. And I said, oh, whoa, blown away that so much garbage was in there. And I don't know, there were a few points that I wanted to, that I was circling, but I just asked God to direct my thinking and direct what comes out of my mouth. My old manners of life was by no means bad ones, but I would not exchange the best moments for the worst I have now. I would not go back to it even if I could. I was listening to the stories about the alcohol, and I have a healthy fear of alcohol. I don't ever want to think that that's going to be my solution. But if I'm not making my connections, staying with you people, listening to what you have to say, and doing my work, which I have been slacking on, I have gotten sick. I've gotten sicker. And, life happens. But if I don't have God, if I don't know God's going to be the one that's going to have the ultimate say in the outcome, if I don't know that, and if I'm not practicing that on another day, every day, things like what happened to me are going to happen again. And I don't ever want to drink. My mother has Alzheimer's. She was my best friend. That was a crushing blow to me. And to watch that is so scary and so sad. And I haven't been taking care of myself. And I just get so depressed. I have a little girl. She's very active. I came to these meetings pregnant, and she's 9 now. She's going to be 10. And I have to be on a plane because I'm helping another little soul. And I don't want to direct her I don't want to be, I'm like her idol, and so is my husband. I don't want to be a freak because she's going to see that, and she's going to learn that. I have to stay close to you guys because I see what happens when I don't. And when Joe asked me to speak, I was like, oh, I don't want to get out of myself, I don't want to hear myself say what I have to do. I just want to do it. But sometimes we need a little kick in the butt, and my life is becoming unmanageable again. And if I don't get back on the track, it's just gonna spiral down fast, just like my life did before. But I just, like I said, now these kids that we go in and speak to, they have to write us notes, letters, and I haven't seen the new ones yet, but I usually don't read them because when I go into those schools and I'm wiped out after I come out talking about those. talking about my story to these kids, because I tell my story like 3 times in a row, and it's not good to go back, but I have to always stay focused. Why am I going in there? I always, from when I started to get sober, I always wanted to go in and talk to children, whether at a school or something, and tell them my story. And God saw fit. After 11 years, I finally met someone who's really one of my best friends today. Her daughters, she used to go in and talk about alcoholism to her daughter's health class. So God put her in my life, and it's amazing, all the little miracles, if you try to stay sound and focused. All the little miracles that God put in your life are so huge miracles. And I know that we're touching some of these kids, because I have read a couple letters, I just don't read them all, that we're planting a seed, that we're in I don't know. I just, I'm losing my train of thought, getting tired again. But if you're here, I hope you can, if you're new in this fellowship, I hope you can hold on to your seat, grab onto someone that lights your soul when you're listening to them, and don't be afraid, because fear has taken so much from me. And, you know, you got a shot at life, and this is a life second to none if you keep working it. And thanks a lot for having me. Really appreciate it. Thank you.